Welcome to Small Spark Theory. This podcast is designed as a collection of thoughts, ideas, and practical tips on using marginal gains to help your agency new business endeavours. Small Spark Theory is hosted and created by Lucy Mann, founder of Gunpowder Consulting.
Welcome back to Small Spark Theory. I'm delighted to have with me here in the studio today Tim Duncan from TDC PR. Tim and I worked together how many years ago?
About 5 years ago, I think.
5 years.
Was it 5 years ago? Yeah, at least.
7, I think.
7.
Probably.
God,
yeah.
Time flies.
Doesn't it? Let's not think about that. Anyway, Tim is a communications professional. He's got over 10 years experience working both in-house and with PR agencies. We worked together when you were at Seymour.
That's right.
Head
of PR, yeah.
And since then, you launched your consultancy, TDC PR, and you're representing clients across the creative, digital, and innovation industries.
Yep.
Welcome. Really good to
Thank
have you here. As you know, this series is all about the small changes, the marginal gains, improvements that businesses can bring to their new business and marketing process. So it's really good to have you here so we can focus specifically on PR and how agencies can focus on making small changes that will raise their profile and get them better coverage and help ultimately grow their business. Before we go into any detail, it would be really good to get a bit of background on you, how you got here, why you set up your own consultancy.
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
Okay. So, as you mentioned before, I was head of PR at Seymour back in, I'm just trying to remember, I think it was 2009 I started there, which is when we first met. Obviously, before Seymour I was working for a couple of PR agencies, so I really cut my teeth in the world of PR working for a company called Media, which is one of the bigger London agencies. Went to Seymour because it's one of those companies that you just don't say no to if they're interested. They are, as a lot of people may know, they're one of the leading design and innovation companies in the UK, famous for the kind of, a lot of milestone projects over the last 30 years, from the cordless kettle to the Virgin Galactic spacecraft and everything in between. So when I was approached to be the head of PR for Seymour, I jumped at the chance because I've got a sort of innate interest in the world of design and technology and innovation anyway. So it was a great opportunity to go in and work with such a dynamic group of people. Spent 5 years there looking after their communications to take them from what at the time was very much a sort of UK focused product design company to be a more sort of global design innovation company and really seen as a sort of beacon for design thinking. So I spent 5 years there, but then after 5 years I hadn't fallen out of love with Seymour. They are in fact now a client of mine, which is nice. It was just that
nicely done.
I got to a stage where I felt the need to do more. I wanted to challenge myself. I think there was an opportunity to work with a more diverse range of people, all who had similar needs to Seymour and I think what was interesting is there's a lot of people out there, a lot of agencies and companies and individuals who sit between brands that everyone knows and loves, but don't maybe understand perhaps who is it in between ourselves and those brands that is actually making all of that magic happen. And it's people like Seymour it's people like Design Bridge, who are the mechanism, if you like, in the industry pushing forward all of that innovation work. So it's really those people that I was interested in helping give a voice to, and in the last 4 years it's grown from there really. Set up in 2013 with 3 clients, and then it's just grown on from there, and we're now 8 people with over 10 clients.
Wow, well done. No mean feat.
Crazy.
No mean feat. And what are the most common challenges you find that clients come to you, or I'll say agencies?
Yeah.
Obviously they're your clients, but just for the listeners so that we all understand that obviously you are a PR agency, but it's agencies that predominantly that are your clients. So what are the most common challenges that you find they come to you with?
So, I mean, more or less, when we get approached by an agency looking for PR, it's one of three things that they're looking for. It's normally a combination of all three, but sometimes one of them will be more urgent than others. One is obviously supporting business development. That is always something that PR is seen as being fundamental for. But also talent acquisition, attracting the right talent is critical to agencies. Agencies in London, they live or die by how good their talent pool is. So the right sort of PR can attract the right kind of people, and then just general company reputation and share of voice in the marketplace. We live in a world now of digital media where topics are being debated and commented on by key influencers all over the place. So people know that they need to get in on that conversation because it helps with their general reputation, and also those other two issues of talent acquisition and supporting of new business. More often than not, companies, agencies specifically, know they need PR, but they rarely have the internal resource to dedicate sufficient time to it.
Yes. So
that's a pain point. People I meet are like, oh, we know we need it. We just don't have the time for it. We want somebody to own it for us. So what's nice is with TDC, we are from the creative industry. I think that's why we're different, is that we're not just a PR agency taking up work for the sake of doing work. All of our team have come some way through the creative industries and or have a real passion for it themselves. We can help that issue because creative industry companies, agencies, individuals, they are a certain breed. There are certain problems that you see from agency to agency, and having an understanding of those and knowing how the pressures that they're under. So I think those things are really important. So that's how I think we can help creative businesses in first of all understanding them and having them know that we know what their pressure points are. I think that's half the battle, because then we can predict and help them with what they know they're going to need.
So where have you seen the biggest transformation or the biggest achievement from one of your clients?
Yeah, there are a number of examples I can think of. Going back to my time at Seymour Powell when I was in house, we PR'd a concept project they had done called the Air Cruise project.
That was a beautiful thing.
It was fantastic, and I think to date it's had just over 2,000 pieces of press coverage in over 70 countries around the world. Wow. I swear it'll be on my gravestone.
No time soon, we hope.
But I think what was so lovely about that is that it touched on so many what I call punter-friendly touch points. Luxury, travel, future of cities, and smart living and connectivity.
But futuristic, I think, as well.
Futuristic.
It felt a dream. It was not quite achievable, not quite attainable now, but it was at some point in the future we might be able to do this.
And for Seymour Powell, what it did, of course, was land them right at the heart of futuristic thinking. So people want to know, well, who came up with that concept? And so it really projected Seymour Powell into that space, which I think was what they were really needing at that time.
Predicting the future.
Yeah. They famously say when you walk into Seymour Powell, it's like you're walking into 7 to 10 years in the future. So it was a great project. And of course, getting to work with Richard Seymour and Dick Powell was good fun too. But other projects that we've seen good results for, one of our architecture clients, Jack Studio, designed London's first, quote, invisible house, which is actually being built right now down in southeast London in Brockley in a conservation area. The house has been clad in mirrored glass, and so is actually, you can't see it because it reflects everything. It's based on a house built in a forest in Norway. They tried 3 designs for this house, all of which have been denied by planning permission because it was a conservation area, and then they just basically made it invisible. Other things I think that we're talking about are for Design Bridge, which are obviously one of the biggest brand packaging companies, most well known in the UK. We've worked with them now for nearly 4 years, and there's been a real growth, I think, in their share of voice. Just because we have a system of we run a press office system for them where we share their launch stories of any project that they've worked on, and the result now is that media come to us wanting to know what Design Bridge think and what they say. So in terms of measuring success, it's gone from sort of proactively pushing news out, which of course we still do, to a scenario now where, and actually it's the same with a lot of our clients now, where media come to us saying, oh, you know, what are Design Bridge doing? What are X, Y, and Z doing?
Which is the dream.
And you see, this is another thing that I think actually plays to our advantage, is that media now know that if they come to TDC, they can get multiple comment from a collection of different people across the creative industries. A lot of people say to us, oh, does it matter that you work with such and such and such and such? But actually, obviously, no two of our clients are ever the same. You know, they have remarkably different business objectives and projects going on at any one time. But the advantage of having this collection is that media now know that, you know, they can come to TDC and have a multiple hit. Nobody ever sees an article where one commentator is included. They will see various. There was one occasion a few years ago where we had 4 TDC clients in one article, which was great because we made...
I remember that.
Yeah. I think it was about Google Alphabet.
Yes, I remember that.
We made the journalist's life easier and we did a good job, and we had 4 very distinct comments, which was great because it added to the variety.
Clients.
4 happy clients. Yeah. Other thing as well in terms of talking about transformation and achievement is the work that we're doing to support design technology education right now, which actually underpins the entire industry that we're all in. So many people don't understand fundamentally the role of design in life. Of course, everybody that we work with does, but the vast majority of people don't quite understand what 21st century design technology looks like nowadays, which, you know, it's another story, not one for now perhaps, but there is a big battle going on to lobby the Department for Education to actually realise what modern day design technology is. Long gone are the days of making trowels or bird boxes. This is about fully integrating maths, science and engineering and how it supports the UK creative economy and ultimately our place in the world. So something that we're trying to do ourselves, and we're seeking the help from a lot of our clients is to pull together a network of voices to champion design and technology and everything involved in design technology. I think that's another point to make, is that so many people don't perhaps see all the different career paths there are in the creative industries.
So if anybody listening wants to get involved in helping you with that,
we're on a mission.
With that mission,
get in touch.
A lot of the things that you're talking about, and we've referenced some agencies there, certainly Design Bridge and Seymour Powell at the larger end of the agency scale. A lot of the agencies that I talk to are smaller, usually independent, and for some of them PR feels like something that or certainly the external kind of PR help that you can offer feels like something that isn't in their budget to start with, to be frank. Smaller agencies will have a limited marketing budget, and I guess if they're going to spend that money anywhere, they'll probably want to spend that on generating leads.
Yes.
Now, it would be really useful to know, I'm not going to ask you how much you charge, I'm not going to do that, but it would be really useful to know how some of those smaller agencies can leverage PR for their reputation to raise their profile without having to spend the money on retaining an expert like you because they won't have the kind of budgets for it. I was hoping you might be able to give us your 3 top tips to help agencies and small things that they can do just to make a difference to generate their own PR and profile.
Just to add to that, I think you're absolutely right. PR has got to be wed to the business development.
Yes.
We see it very much as a hybrid function. The right PR for the right business development objective, be it to win clients, be it to get the right talent. In terms of tips, I mean, I think first and foremost, I think the sort of biggest 101 for anybody, be it small company, an individual or bigger company, is that the senior people in that company really understand the role of PR in business and why the company needs it. If you don't understand it or know why you need it, it can often be tricky to plug it in. It's critical to be completely realistic, to understand what PR can achieve, also to understand that to have a real impact, it does need a mid to long term commitment, because I think a lot of people just think you can click your fingers and see PR and see coverage.
Yes.
It doesn't work like that.
Yes.
If you're a new brand or you want to create a share of voice, you've got first and foremost to educate your key media and your key contacts and stakeholders as to who you are, why you matter, and what you're saying. And that can't happen overnight.
Yeah.
2 or 3 months in, absolutely, and then you can start building that reputation. That was my other point, is to always keep that focus. So if people do have limited budget, the key thing is then to have that complete crystal focus on what is the 1 or 2 things that they really do need to achieve. That might be a key project that is a kind of cornerstone for their business. So if they have a particular project that's about to go live or they know is going to happen in a few months, and they only have a certain amount of budget for communications, put it around communicating that story because it reflects on who they are and what they're about. If they have a fantastic sort of future gazing or really innovative speaker, then perhaps it's more about putting the time and effort into events and to creating events, running events, and indeed speaking at events as well. Really, I think the first thing is to do an analysis of the company, who you have, what your assets are. Is it story rich? Is it people rich? Hopefully it's both. There are a lot of agencies who have great work, but perhaps they're a little nervous about speaking, which is completely fine. When their focus should perhaps just be on sharing that work. To get a little more granular, again, say, a small startup with a few people or even an individual wants to know how to best PR a specific project. You have to obviously sell it in the right way. Timing is really important, but also imagery and photography is critical. We live in an age now of video and image-led content. People's attention spans are, very short. So I always bang on about this, but stories, will often be made or broken on the quality of the imagery, of the photography.
Interesting.
And that can be anything. It can be architecture, it can be product, it can be branding. It's got to be slick. And also, I would say video. Short video really helps sell a project or a story as well. So again, if there was somebody wanting to decide what one thing do we spend our money on doing, it would be those assets around that story. Some other key things to focus on as well, I would say, in terms of tips. I've mentioned focus. I've mentioned being realistic as well and understanding why you need it. But I would also say value relationships as well, because ultimately relationships with key media and key influencers are what's going to actually help you grow your reputation, sell those stories. So if you disregard those, you're not going to build on that success. And then finally, I think you just have to be nice.
A lovely lesson for life there.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Yeah.
Just going back to tips, what about when there isn't a budget for PR? What can the teams themselves do better? What can they? What are the things that they can do just to make sure that a project that they've done gets a bit of coverage or an award that they've won gets a bit of coverage?
I think having PR plugged into the process right from day one is really important. Even if that's having some kind of clause in your contract with your client about PR. More often than not, it'll be something along the lines of, PR is not normally allowed, but please seek written permission, blah, blah, blah. That often works. And then, you have the contract, but then you may have a verbal agreement with your client that they're happy as long as they see and approve what you want to say. So having that up front is also useful. I would also say a lot of people forget to mention PR at the early stages.
Yes.
So when agencies start working with clients, it's good to have that understanding of the time frame and what they can do, so that agencies can then have that in their own sort of plan. It's also, I think, worth having a single person or a couple of people to actually own that bit of responsibility, so that they know it's their job to find out when and how they can communicate about it. At the same time, because things like imagery and video take longer than often people expect, another key tip would be to make sure that ahead of time they plug in a plan for that. And then, of course, when it comes to general awareness and communication, having a slick presence on social media, I think, is important. When it comes to social media, I think quality is far better than quantity. depending on what the agency, what sector the agency's in, you would perhaps choose from LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Depending on what it is you're talking about, that would mean a different emphasis on a different platform.
Yeah.
The 4 platforms, and there's obviously other platforms, they're all very different with different audiences where a different approach is needed.
Yeah.
So I think understanding how to manage that is key. And if you're a small agency with no budget for that sort of thing, then I think it's just about thinking, right, well, what can we do? What should be the critical path? And more often than not, it would perhaps be to do a bit less than try and be seen across everything.
Yeah.
Because I would say it's worse to have an inactive presence than no presence at all.
Yes. Focus, repurposing content, planning, so building those conversations about PR in a project much earlier. Because something I've found with working with agencies when they're working on a piece of work which they have been waiting, they've been working on it for a long time. This happens a lot with branding particularly. They may have been working on it for a year or 2 years before it finally goes to market. And by the time it is finally live and they are able to talk about it, the client is really busy and distracted on other things. And then it's really difficult to start the conversation and say, oh, by the way, can we write a press release? So getting all that planning in and having those conversations much earlier in the process before you need to. Okay.
So that it's just a case of,
sign off
and rubber stamping, and that there's no surprises there's no surprises in the system.
And should you talk to one? What happens about exclusivity? Is it best to talk to one publication about exclusivity, or do you send it out to everyone? How do you do it?
Again, it would depend on the story.
Yeah.
If it was, that's a hard one to answer because all different media like different ways of receiving exclusives, and it depends on the story. If you have a leading publication saying that they would do a significant, lengthy exclusive where they would work with you to deliver the right message, then I would say that's definitely worth it. You would need to emphasise to that media title that you plan to send it out to other titles, maybe a few hours after they run their exclusive. I would say if you're wanting to raise awareness, it's tricky because one really great piece in a leading title is more valuable than, say, 10 nibs in other titles.
Okay.
So it's really one to judge based on the conversation you've had with a journalist. If you're guaranteed a great lengthy piece, it's worth it. But if the story is competing with a lot of other stories and it might get lost, then it's often better to send it to a number of key reporters who will write it up as a news item.
Okay.
But that's always one to judge depending on the story and conversations that have been had.
Okay, and back to your original point about building relationships with the media, building relationships with journalists. So you can then start to gauge those opportunities.
And that's something else I would say too. If somebody doesn't have the time budget to engage a PR company, then maybe when you make your year plan or your plan for however long, you maybe identify the top 5 or top 10 journalists, and you just think, right, every other month I'm going to try and see if I can take one of these guys for coffee. You can go to them and just take an hour at a time to explain who and what you are and what you're doing. Then that will go a long way to actually making those relationships and making them more meaningful. Because remember as well, journalists get bombarded every day with hundreds of emails from PRs and companies pitching them a product or a service or a news story. I always like to think that it's about, when you write your email or you give them a call, it's about how do you not get deleted? What is it in your story and in your email that's going to keep you on that person's email list? We all do it every day. We look at our email and think, right, let's delete our emails so we can have a simplified list on our to-do list. Journalists do just the same. So it's about ensuring that you get through to them with something. But of course, if you've met them and you've got that relationship with them, you're less likely to be deleted because they'll know who you are.
Another question for you. What piece of advice have you been given that's really stuck with you?
I touched on it before as well. I think TDC and myself and all of our team, we are optimistic. We are always positive and helpful. I think that goes a long way in business. Remaining true to yourself and your values. If we are approached to work with something that doesn't ring true with our values, then we won't work for it. I think in terms of the sort of work itself, it's always critical to anticipate what clients need before they know it themselves sometimes, and also to allow thinking time. So often people overlook the need to think about something or allow time to think about it. It's critical to building creative ideas and getting better results, I'd say. So always allow thinking time.
Yeah, you're right. We factor in doing time, but we forget to plan in the thinking time before the doing, which is very different. What would be your book or TED Talk recommendation for us?
Oh, there's so many here. I mean, I like a lot of the Harvard Business Review books. Those series are really good. Other books that stick out for me, things like Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yes.
I think it's been really interesting about just understanding thought processes for successful ways of thinking. TED Talk, again, there are so many. Richard Seymour gave a beautiful speech. I know I'm biased because I worked for him, but about how beauty feels was fascinating. Totally a different take on the world of beauty, and it would take you by surprise. So I recommend people watch that. It's called How Beauty Feels by Richard Seymour.
And is there an inspiring figure that you have?
In my world, there's lots of inspirational characters all the time. A chap called Will Broadway, who I met a few weeks ago, who is the teenager who just recently won a Dyson Award for designing the world's first portable vaccination refrigerator called Isobar.
Yes.
To me, that is inspiring. A guy called Takeshi Miyakawa, based in New York, Japanese, moved to New York 30 years ago, the most incredible furniture designer with the most amazing philosophy and process. A guy called Dean DeSimone, who is the US partner of Tokyo Bike. Again, incredible career, worked in branding and creative agencies, and now he runs one of the most progressive brands I've seen for a long while. Emily Brooke, who is the founder of Blaze, which is the device
Cycle
people
helmet.
put on their bikes to project an image of light so that they don't get knocked over by...
yes. So not the cycle helmet, but the light that fits on the front of the bike.
So inspiration to me takes many forms.
Listeners are going to be hearing this podcast in February, but at the time of recording, Tim Duncan, you have just launched your own online magazine.
We
Soda,
have.
State of Design Affairs. Tell us all about it.
It started as our blog, essentially, and it remains our blog. People say, oh, is it a magazine? I wouldn't call it a magazine as such. I guess it is, but it's more of a space for TDC and our kind of world of commentators and designers and writers and everybody who we engage with to share their thoughts and ideas on the state of design affairs. We cover a vast array of different people in the creative industries, celebrating and talking about interesting things, new things, different ways of doing things, interesting characters. And it's in beta right now. By February, I'm hoping it'll be a bit more gremlin-free.
So it's online now? Will it
it's
be
online
in print?
now.
Will it ever
No,
go
it's
print?
possibly. We
Okay.
want to think about doing some sort of exhibition maybe.
So as you know, Small Spark Theory is all about marginal gains. We're looking for the small improvements that anyone can make in their marketing and new business process. Where do you see the opportunity for marginal gains in PR?
I've got 3 which people can maybe chop and choose from. We touched on it before, but one is around project launch PR, recognising the value in the fact that you've worked on something fantastic or amazing or well known. If you can, shout about it. B, if that's just one press release sent to a few key journalists, I would say would be something that would be a focus. Again, we touched on it, but social media, think about relevance, target and focus and how it'll support you. And don't forget to try and bank any ideas around thought leadership. I think we touched on it before, talking about working with a client and then getting to the time when you want to talk about something and everyone's too busy. During that process, you will have conversations with people that will go every which way, more often than not, probably ending in quite an interesting debate that could be fairly topical, argue either way. It's worth banking those so that you can start recording a bank of your own opinions should somebody ask you in the future.
Tim Duncan, thank you so much for coming to Small Spark Theory.
Pleasure.
And sharing your knowledge and expertise for our listeners. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
It's time for a competition. Last time we gave away a lovely School of Life egg timer, and this time we've got a copy of Tim's recommended book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, which we're going to be giving away to one lucky listener. If you want to join the conversation on Twitter using the Small Spark Theory hashtag and tell us how you're managing to make marginal gains, how you're managing to improve your marketing and new business activities, we will pick the best one and send you a copy of this lovely book. So get tweeting and tell us how you're getting on. Thanks for listening. Join us again next time when I'll be talking to Catherine Allison, founder of Master the Art.
You have been listening to Small Spark Theory, a podcast by Gunpowder Consulting. Music is provided by Duke Deck, available via dukedeck.com. Small Spark Theory is hosted by Lucy Mann. The editor is Isabel Jarvis, and the podcast is produced by Rosanna Miles at makemypodcast.space. Visit gunpowderconsulting.com for more information and visit our blog there to download further podcasts. Join the conversation on Twitter at Gunpowder Tweets #SmallSparkTheory. And if you like what you hear, head to iTunes and give us a star or 5. Thanks for listening.